Good afternoon. So today we're working on plotting a graph of the density of water with varying temperature. And part of this uses relative and absolute address. So you can get started. Here we have the Excel sheet and there's different features here. You can close this window if you don't like to see it. And if you want to put it back up here, you can pin it. So the density of water, this is the graph we're going to be after right here. You can see at increasing temperature, the density is lower for water when it's a liquid. And then here's a formula that is used to generate this graph. And this formula is from one of our textbooks, the Harris book on quantitative chemical analysis. So we'll keep this formula handy here because it's a little bit hard to remember. So starting with our spreadsheet, I'll just put the density here as a title. And it's always good to put the units. And the way I like to do that is put it in parentheses. So use this bar here, f of x, it's the formula bar. You can expand it or contract it these two different ways if you want to make a larger formula. And then you can click back and forth between these bars. So once you click over here, then this little cross arrow between the A and the B pops up. So if you double click on that, it'll auto size your columns here. So it's some useful feature. And another thing you can do, if you like, you can change the colors of these cells. If you right click on the cell and wait for this little pop up here. You can make it a different color, like maybe orange. Maybe you want to make this column a custom color. You can go to more colors and pick which color you like here. If you go to custom, you can change this little slider, see the current color versus the new color, and changing it all like that. So let's go for a nice periwinkle here. I guess that's more sky blue. So the density equation here is displayed. So let's just try to enter that. So if you go to the formula bar and you type equals, we could just type it in like this, A naught plus A1 times T plus A2 stars for T times T, and then use shift 6 caret to get the little arrow up, and that is the exponent value. So that would be T raised to the 2 here. And then if you click plus and then click on a cell and then plus again, it'll stick that in there for your value. Or if you want to multiply, shift 8 star, if you want to put that in there. So this is kind of getting used to some of these features in Excel. Slash is divide, and then it'll give you errors normally. So it's kind of like a computer program. You gotta do your best to type something in and then figure it out after. So one thing you'll notice here, well, I just deleted the whole thing. That's just as well because there were some mistakes there. So if you type like A naught plus A1, you'll see it's referring to this cell A1 and it's actually highlighting it here. And if I move this box, then it's gonna put it in B, for example. So we don't want it to do A1. So what you have to do is label your constants. So you can see here, these values, those are our constants. So let's go ahead and try to enter those in. So A naught, A1, A2, So those will be our constants. And maybe you want to label that a little nicer. So you do something like this. Constants. And we could merge these cells. Make a little outline. And we'll work on merging that later. Just focusing on the equation here for now. So a lot of these features change when it gets updated. So you'll kind of have to poke around a little bit. If you have different versions of Excel, let me know how that goes. So A1, A0, A2, and A3 will be our values. And you can enter these in different ways. If you just type equals 0.99989, that's an acceptable way to put a value in here. If you're just putting a number, you can leave the equals off. So you could type 0.9989, and that'll give you the same thing as well. First, so just so you know, there's two different ways to enter numbers. If you want to enter a number with an exponent like this, you could convert it into scientific notation first, and then type 0.0000532 and hit enter. And then it'll put the value in like that. If you wanted to check and make sure you had the scientific notation correct, you could go to Format Cells and then click on Number and convert this to scientific. And we went to 3 decimal places on our constant, so let's keep that the same. So it looks like I did put the right number of zeros. So that's another way to kind of insert numbers. Another way you could do this, you could type equals 5.332 and then times 10 raised to the minus 5. That should give you the similar value. Again, it's times 10 to the minus 5. That's the exponent for our value here. And then press escape to get out of that cell. Or you could type 5.332 and then put E minus 5. And that will give you the same thing too. E is equal to times 10 to the minus. So however you enter your constant, just know there's different ways to do that. So A2, let's just go equals negative 7.589 E minus 6. So then that pops that in there. And then A3, 3.671 times 10 to the minus 8. So you could technically copy and paste this value here too, if you want. Control Z undoes something, by the way, if you don't know that trick. So Control C and then Control V here. And then when you paste something, you can paste the destination format or the source format. So different ways to paste things. It's always handy to pay attention to that. And then there's a little space here, so that's going to create a problem for us. But I'm just going to leave it now. So you'll see, we'll get the error and then I'll fix that. But just so you know, there is a mistake here. What you'd really want to do is type equals or 3.6719 E minus 8, and that'll give you the correct value. They put spaces in sometimes to delineate the every thousandth powers, so it's a little easier to read. So just be careful when you do copy and paste. So let's go ahead and enter our equation now that we have our constants in here. So equals, and then I could type A0, right? But I'm just going to click on the cell that we want here. So that will refer to it here. So it's going to say C3 instead of A0. plus A1 and then star times T. So I'll just put T into, we'll call that, we'll make this our T column, the H. So we'll start it at H3. And then you could type H3 or you can click it. So I clicked it for that one. So you see we have D3 times H3, so A1 times T. And then let's continue. Plus A2. So you could type E3 if you want. E3. See how I highlighted that automatically? Times T2, so H4. And that needs to be squared, so Shift 6 caret. That's the little caret button. See how it popped up right here? That's Shift 6. And then it's raised to a 2. So that's how we get the exponent. So we'll type 2 in here. And then plus A3 T raised to the 3. And it actually gave us a value. So that's good. Looks like maybe there's some mistakes here still. So see, this is H4 referring to the wrong cell. So if you want to have two different values, you could have refer to that in different ways like that. So if you make a mistake, you can always click and drag the box. So see how it's going. I3 to I2, J4, A1 steak sauce, back to H3 here. So you want it to be H3, so let's click enter there. So let's double check our formula. So C3, which is A1, it's blue. That's good, that's what we want. Plus A1 times T. So that's going to be D3 times TH3. So that looks good, this little part here. If you wanted to, you could put it in parentheses. Maybe that helps you visualize it. And then we have E3. So that's going to be equal to our A2 value. So here, A2 times T squared. So I left the T off. So we'll make sure we put the T in there. H3. Oh no, it was in there actually. H3 raised to the 2. So I'm going to put some parentheses on there just so it's a little easier to read. And then H3 cubed. So right here I left off the third constant. So you want to make sure that's in here. So you could either type F3 or you could click on it and then type plus. And then see how it's kind of maroon. Put that in there for us. So then we have our first value here. So it's saying value explanation point. That's because there's nothing in there for this. And also I think it is that error here. So this would be our temperature column, temperature, and it's going to be in degrees Celsius. Can expand this using the cross button. And the degrees Celsius here, you can make that look nice if you click on it, format cell, and then superscript. That's one way to go about. That was a subscript. Manipulating the equation. You could also insert the symbol, picking from all these symbols. And the more often you use a symbol, it'll go into recently used symbols. So this is the temperature one. So you can go insert there. And that's another way to insert that. Or there's actually hotkeys for each symbol too. So the character code is O2DA. So if you're familiar with that, you can use that to enter these in. So let's start. We want to start at temperature 0, and then we could go up in increments of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, for example. And then if you click on the bottom here and double click, drag this down, it'll allow you to copy that cell. We want our temperature to increase though. So when you get a little pattern like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, Excel will recognize that. So if you highlight your pattern and then drag it, you're able to have it increase the values for you, so you don't have to manually type these in. So our goal here is to go to 25 degrees or 40 degrees, depending on what you want here. So let's go ahead and drag this down to there. It's going to be pretty high up. So maybe, there we go. If you just pull it down to cell 474, it goes to 47 degrees here. Then we just drag back up. So you can drag up and down using the sidebar. And then here we have our equation, and now it's referring to an actual value for temperature. So everything should be working well. Now it says value. The reason for that, as I mentioned earlier, there's a space here, so you have to fix that. And so when you mess around with your different values, you can have it kind of correct what's going on here. So it's pretty easy to make little mistakes, so that's why I've kind of just made some for you so you can see how to troubleshoot these. So C3 is here, D3 times H3, and well, so this is part of the error here, I believe. There's a space here too. So you get rid of those, that might work out for us. Okay, so if you get rid of all those spaces, then you can see typing the number like that is an acceptable way to get the value to correspond. So if you're getting a funny error, double check your constant values that you've entered those right. So now we have a value for our density, which is exciting. And then if you double click this little bottom right corner, you get a little plus or cross. You can drag that down. And then if this temperature column was here right next to it, you can double click it and it'll auto extend that. If it's not next to it, when you double click it, it won't auto extend it. So just something to keep in mind. You'd have to manually pull this down. So that's something that's interesting. And now if you don't have a value here, notice that these values are not corresponding to the original cell. So one thing you could do is just drag these down so it correlates to where we want. That's not how we're going to do this today because it's kind of sloppy. So what we're going to do here is do absolute address. So where you see it referring to the constant C3, we want it to hold the cell there. So if you put $C, $3, now when you scroll this down, it will always refer to that cell. So see how it pulled these down and it kept this one here. So we can fix that if you put $signs in. So it's going to pop these up where we want them to go. And if you make a typo, it'll actively show you that you made a typo because you won't see the box. So like $E, $18, we want to be $E, $3. But if let's say you put 300 or 30, you can see the cells actually moving around as you do that. And then finally, our third constant, A3, you want to make sure that's referring here. So $F, $18, and then we want it to actually be on 3. So that's another way you can click and drag that down. So now we have entered these values in what's called absolute address. And I did that for the cell 18. We didn't do that for all the cells, so you can drag it up and then it'll copy that over. It's another way to copy things over. So we want it to stick on those constants and not, but we want to change while we change the temperature. So if you leave the H3 cell alone without the $sign when you drag it down, then it will copy that over for you. And you can see here it didn't continue with our numbers. So this is actually just putting a blank in there for that. So you have to make sure the cell's correlated there. So that's one way to do that. And then if you hit the top of A here and press Control C, and then put that on the column B and then Control V, it'll paste those values over for you. So let's try to do that. I'm going to insert a column here too. So you can insert an entire column like that if you right click, just because it might look a little nicer if you try to put some colors in here. So maybe we can get some paint in here just to help us see what's going on. So when I move the temperature over here, now what that allows us to do, instead of being forced to drag this, now when we double click this, it'll auto carry that value all the way down to where these numbers go. So you can see, and then it stops automatically. So that's a pretty neat feature. And then if you want to graph these columns, you press Control A, and then maybe you want to graph this column, Control I, and then you click Charts here, Insert, Chart, and then Scatter Plot. And then it tells us, oh, the maximum series for this type of chart is 255. So we'll have to adjust these values. So these go up too high. So instead of 0.1, we'll try to do 0.2. 0, 0.2, 0.3, 0.2, 0.4, and highlight that. And then double click down, and then you can see that it's gonna cut our values in half. So now when we get to cell 45, we're underneath the threshold of 222 pretty much here. So just go through and can cancel this out and delete them by highlighting that. So 222. Then let's see if this will graph this for us. Now insert, chart, scatter plot. So start over here. Doesn't want to combine it. Oh, so it doesn't like what we've done there because there's text. So if you hit Control A and then Control I, and then if you press Control, you can unselect some of these cells. So you want just numbers, otherwise it's not going to graph. And again, we want selected too many cells here. So what you can do for that is manually unselect them after you plot your graph. So, or just highlight it like this. There's different ways to collect your data. So highlight your first text box, press Control, and then highlight your second text box. So I just recommend practicing Excel. If you come up with problems, let me know and I'll try to help you work through them. So you can see this plotted our graph here. It put it way down here, so I'm going to cut it and then paste it back up at the top here. So, and that pasted it as a picture. We might want to paste it actually as with the formatting so we can manipulate it. So if you wanted to though, See how this is a picture now? So now we can't get in here and manipulate that. So let's get rid of that picture. Just put it down there for now. If you wanted to, you could put that into your PowerPoint or whatever you're presenting. Right? So different little tricks here. But we're not done with our graph, and this isn't gonna even help us out because we're after something like this, right? So title, you can change that pretty easily. You could put H2O, something like that. And modify these fonts. So we learn how to use that feature. And then if you want to add labels, you can put access titles of the little plus sign here and put legends, access titles. We want those on our graph. So this one should be on density, right? So let's get rid of that. It says access titles, so density, gram per milliliter. And then this title here, temperature. Insert degrees Celsius. So that looks good now, right? You can always change the font on that too. If you select that, want to make it larger font or different sub color or underline it, however you like to do it. So, okay, I wouldn't recommend that. It's kind of weird, but that's okay. Actually, it's pretty similar to what they have, minus the underlining. So now you see our lines going the wrong way, which you can't expect Excel to plot it the right way for you right away. So we're going to click on that and then right click and then select data. And we're going to edit our data. And you can see the X is referring to the density, and that's supposed to be on our Y. So if you click on here, you can change that. So it's A3 to A222 for our X, when our X should be our temperature. So that should be I or B. You could change it to either one. So we'll change the A to a B. And the Y value needs to see how it, now we have two temperatures plotted. So it's B versus I, so it's just a straight line. So our Y values, we're gonna want that to be the A column. So, and then there's another way you can do that. You can just go ahead and select them, highlight this, delete it, and then select it out and drag it down. Whichever way is easier for you. And then when you're done doing that, then you can click this arrow. And then put the name here, density, with temp change. See how this looks. So something funky there. Figure out what's going on here. And sometimes if you want to, you can always add another series too. So, and if you want to just do part of the graph, like 0 to 25, you see it's going to 128, and then the y value, and you can just partially go and then go 128 and type it in like that. That's another way to get this plotted for us. So, looks like we want to reverse this axis. So, we'll format our axis and go for the minimum to our maximum. And there might be a mistake in the equation that I originally typed. So let's see what's going on here. So A naught plus A3 times T plus A2 times T squared plus A2 times T cubed. And then check our constants, 0.9989. I left a negative off or something like that. 3.6719 to the eighth. Negative 0.0007589. And then 0.99989. So let's see. That's basically how you want to do this. There's some little mistake here. Let's just remove these and go through it one more time. So our x value, and then our y value. And then let's look at our numbers here. So you can format these cells by number. And let's just go to about 3 sig figs. So yeah, our density definitely shouldn't be going that big. So maybe these parentheses are messing up the order of operations here. So, oh yeah, that was it. So let's take those out. And maybe that was it. Doesn't seem like that should be it. I'm sure you probably found the mistake before me now, but so A naught D3 plus A1 times temperature plus A2 times temperature squared plus A3. Oh, see that plus is a times. There we go. So it's easy to make a little mistake, but at least you see how to troubleshoot things now. And let's see if that fixes what we have going on here. And yeah, you can see if we round to 3 sig figs, it kind of don't even see any variance on there. But let's go ahead and extend our plot here, select data, and edit that. And we're going to send it down to 222. 2, 2, 2, and then our temperature graph here, we got to format that, format the axis. I'm just right clicking on that, by the way. So the minimum is going way too high. So I'll just get that down to 0. And then our maximum temperature, let's say is 45, because that's kind of what is on our goal here. And then you can see that plotted this out for us. You can just move these back and forth. So now let's see here. Final thing. Let's figure out what's going on here. A1. So probably want to start that on A3. So this needs to start on the third cell as well. I3. So see how that dropped this. So again, you can manually change these like this, or you can type them into the cells. That. And okay, now let's extend our number back so we can see a little bit more digits on here. Format, cells, number. Let's just make it back to normal there, general. So you can see here, if you look on our original graph, the maximum is around 4 degrees. So if you look on our data, that's what it should look like too. So around 4 degrees should be our maximum. If you look 0.9998, 4, 0.9998. So you do see that this is the maximum value right around here. So these are less nines compared to what we have here. So 99997, 99996. And so I'll just show you how to plot this graph one more time, kind of quick and easy. So if you go Shift, highlight your first cells, press Control, highlight your second values that you want to graph. Then insert, chart, scatter plot. And then again, this is reversed. So then click on this, select your data, and then you can either add a new series and just select your temperature for your X and your density for your Y. And then delete the old series. That's one way you can do that. Or you can kind of go through and change the values like I was showing. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. There's some other things you can do here too. Like if you format the axis, you can change where it crosses and kind of how it looks through here. One important piece is the vertical axis crosses. It says automatic. You can force it to cross on a different part if you want. Like let's say it put the axis right here, and for some reason you want it to cross right at 1. then you can force it to do that. So we want it to cross at 0, so that's where we're gonna put that guy here. And then it's kind of, when you're in here, manipulating these variables on your options, just mess around with these menus and know when you click in the menu, like you could put minor tick marks if you want. And then we have little tick marks inside. So you can change the value of the minor tick marks, or you can change the labels. Maybe you want the label positions inside, outside. So it's really customizable for you. And again, we want our access titles, so make sure you check that box and then change these labels. And then that's about it for now. I wasn't trying to make this video too long, so there we have it. So we want this actually to go further, right? So let's select our data, edit, and let's make it go to 200. And now you can see we have this nice graph here. So, and then if you want to add a second graph, you can do that. If you want to add another data series, let's say, I don't know, you wouldn't want to do this, but temperature versus temperature just for showing this. Something like that. And then the Y values. Then you can see you get the little spit outline there. And then if you want to take it off, then you can just highlight it and then delete it. So there we have it. We pretty much have our graph that we're after. So density of water, variable temperatures. And I guess one last thing, keep adding more. You can get rid of your grid lines. Sometimes it looks nicer without grid lines. So you can just highlight those and then hit no border. No lines. And then it can kind of get a pretty graph like that. And then this one has the little minor tick marks on it. So maybe we want to add those tick marks. So major, type, minor, maybe outside. And then you see now we have the little tick marks there. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Send me questions if you have any. And good luck producing your own graph. And have a good day.